lesson or this training, whatever we want to call it, this is inspired by TikTok versus YouTube. So last week a study came out, or a stat, I don't know what to call it, but TikTok users spend more time on YouTube, right? But let's take that into context, right? So what I want to do is, we're talking about this TikTok versus YouTube. They prompted it, right? But we're going to talk about basically TikTok versus YouTube in a more broad spectrum, right? And what I mean by that is these headers. So search and intent, right? And then you got interruption and browsing. And what I mean by that is, over here, you see all of these search and intent based social media platforms, right? Then you see the interruption based platforms, interruption and browsing, right? So TikTok versus YouTube, you got YouTube over here, you got TikTok over there, then you got like a few others in there that are very relevant to the conversation you don't want to leave out, right? So what we're going to do is, we're going to talk about search and intent. Search and intent versus interruption and browsing. So search and intent, what do we mean by this, right? What do we mean by that is, we mean that when people are here in these categories, these platforms here, and there are more, I can't list them all, but when people are here, they're searching and they have a higher intent. Cat, would you leave me alone? They have a higher intent to purchase or take action or take you up on your offer, right? When we're over here, we're talking about interruption and browsing. Their intent is not as high over here. However, you can typically reach them a little bit better, more frequently when you're over here. So none is better than the other, right? They just have pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses is what I like to say. So search and intent and interruption versus browsing. And typically what I like to do is, I like to think about these things more as branding and these things more as marketing, like kind of like education, right? So let's get into it. Search and intent, we got 4 listed here. We got 4 of them listed. Number 1 is Google. Google is not necessarily social media, but it is affiliated, and it's the web portal like for almost all of the internet, right? Other people use different stuff like Bing and Yahoo and some other stuff, but in general, 80% of traffic is through Google. Like Google is a portal through 80% of traffic, right? Could be a little more, could be a little less, but you get the point. A majority of traffic goes through Google. Next, we have, so let's go over here, right? And let's go to interruption. So that's search based. You go to Google, you type something that you're interested in, you type that in, and you get your results. You get a bunch of different web pages, videos, whatever. That's Google, that's search intent. You have an intent, I want to learn how to fix a car. So I go to Google and I type that in, how to fix a car, and I get a bunch of stats on how to fix a car, and YouTube is one of those options, right? Here on Facebook, when you're marketing, right? This is where you disrupt people. So you can target people here based on their intent and interests, but not as much as you can here. And typically what you do over here is, it's cheaper, but you can reach these people more frequently, right? Now we're talking YouTube. So the reason why I'm talking about this today is because I know a person in our industry, in the real estate industry, and what they're doing is, we get shiny object syndrome. And what they're doing is, they're being obsessed with a platform over here, and their format is not ideal for over here. Their format is ideal for this over here. Educational based content. Long form content where people are in a certain mindset and they're ready to sit down and digest like a specific amount of content, right? So that's what's prompting this video. So which social media platform should you use, right? It really depends on your strategy, but I'm thinking about this one particular person, and this person is over here on Instagram. He's on Instagram and he should be on YouTube. Why? Why should he be on YouTube and not Instagram? So I want you to think about this, you as a customer or prospect, right? When you're on Instagram, when you're on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, when you're on these platforms, what's your frame of mind? You're browsing, oh, let me just pop out my phone and, digest some of this content. You know, you go to Facebook, and then, you know, if you're like me, you go to Facebook, bam, you consume a couple of minutes. Then you go to Instagram, bam, you consume a couple of minutes, maybe watch a video here and there between the two. If you're like me, you're not even on TikTok. I'm not even on TikTok. I don't mess with it. I try to stay away from it. You know, then I got Twitter. I do some stuff over there, right? So you pop in and out of those apps, and you do what you do. And you might see a few advertisements here and there, but in general, my issue is the length of the video that this person is doing, right? So my issue is the length. It's okay if you're on Instagram, right? And you're doing, you know, let's just say 3 minutes for the sake of it, right? 3 minutes. If you're doing like 3-minute video content, that's cool. That's great, right? However, the reason why I'm suggesting that this person switch platform is because that content is not 3 minutes. It's longer than 3 minutes, and it's specific to a specific subject and topic within real estate. So what this person should do is take that content from Instagram and go right over to YouTube. Go over to YouTube, because when you hit YouTube, there are people that are searching for your specific thing. So remember, let's just say, for example, we're talking about how to fix a car. Well, you can get some stuff around how to fix a car on these platforms, right? You can get some stuff. They'll show you some advertisements. Okay, Jerome was interested in fixing a car, so let's show him some ads around fixing a car. That's cool, but they don't really know what my ad is. They know my interest is maybe fixing a car, but they don't know exactly what I'm looking for. Over here on Google, they kind of know, because I probably ran through a few searches, but let's just say I did one search, how to fix a car. They know specifically that I'm looking for content on how to fix a car. It's not my interest around a car, right? Because fixing a car is not an interest in any of these platforms. But Google knows specifically that Jerome is looking to fix a car. So they'll give me content relevant to that. All right, so these are the platforms, right? You got Google, YouTube, Bing, Yahoo. And the commonality that you see with all of these are search-based platforms. So people will search for specific content around that thing. The common denominator over here is these are not search-based platforms. They are browsing platforms, I like to call them, where you go when you consume content, you go relax and you just chill, right? But they have a search feature. And a good way to label both is like these have a search feature for the most part with a social media flair. And these are social media with a search feature flair, right? So again, my main thing that I wanted to talk about was YouTube versus some of this other stuff. So I'm going to underline TikTok, and I'm going to also do Instagram, right? So here's the thing. TikTok, they surpass YouTube for video consumed, right? But the thing about TikTok is that most of those people are on there, and I'm saying most. I know there are some people that are serious. There are some serious people, but for the most part, people are on TikTok for what? They're on TikTok for entertainment, right? Let's go back over here. The educational content, the search-based content. Typically, so I asked this person, right? I said, when you go on, he's using Instagram a lot, right? When you go on Instagram, what is your mindset? How much time will you spend on a video? I asked this person, right? And he said, 2-3 minutes, let's just give it 5 minutes. Let's just give it 5 minutes. Let's say 5 minutes. So typically we'll spend 5 minutes on YouTube, on Instagram, right? And just to emphasize, right? For the most part, mostly, some people do things a little bit differently, but let's just say we spend 5 minutes watching video on Facebook, 5 minutes watching video on Instagram, 5 minutes watching video on TikTok, and 5 minutes on Twitter, right? F it, let's give them all 7 minutes, right? They all get 7 minutes, so that's about 30 minutes. When we go over to YouTube, I said, how much time do you spend on YouTube? He said, probably about an hour, right? So you see the difference and you see the power. So it's ideal to be over here in the search-based stuff because, like, especially, and we're talking specifically YouTube in this case, because people will spend more time there. The more time that people spend with you, the more invested they are. So that's ideal for what you want to do, especially if you're doing educational type content. If you're doing entertainment and dancing around and doing silly TikToks, stay over here. But if you have a different format and you're trying to teach people and get your message to a specific, go over here, use the search-based content, right? So now my phone is dying. So let's get through these. Let's get through these bullet points as fast as we can, right? So we already talked about TikTok. So we already talked about this stuff over here. Like, this is more for entertainment. We go over here, Google, Yahoo, Bing. It's educational. Like when you're searching for something, you're trying to get educated about that thing. So you got to think about your customers and your prospects the same way. Over here, high intent. You have a higher intent. How to fix a car. It's like I'm very specific, and my intent when I'm running that search is I need to fix this car some way, or I need to get ads relevant to fixing that car. That's over there, high intent. Over here, these interruption and browsing based platforms, typically the demographic is younger. So it's typically a younger demographic that's operating over here. And what does that mean? Younger, I mean, look, I'm gonna just say it. Young people be broke. We be broke, right? So young people be broke. We haven't established much yet. We don't have jobs over here. You know, let's just say they say the kids on social media. So let's just say the kids, 13 to 18, right? They don't have a lot of money to spend, right? So if you're offering a product or something like that, they're not really interested. In addition to that, they're not interested in that much education either. They're interested in entertainment. So over here, especially with Instagram and TikTok, even Twitter, like that's the millennials there. They're typically younger, right? Over here, let's go to over here, right? So and I'm talking about YouTube and Google. YouTube more specifically, since it's the most social media-ish platform over here, but YouTube is evergreen content. And what that means is that content stays there. The content that you put on YouTube, it stays there, and people can find it over and over and over and over and over again. Several times over. They'll keep finding it and finding it and finding it and finding it. Well, when you get over here, right, to the browsing-based platforms, people can run searches on this stuff, but typically, like when you're on social media, you're on Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that, you browse through your feed, and then once you see that post or whatever, you're done with it. And you might see it one more time. Okay, these people comment on that post. This post is real hot. But then eventually it dies. It dies. So that's one of the reasons why you don't want to be over here with educational based content. Because when you post that content, like anything I post on Instagram, I expect it to die. But when I post my stuff on YouTube, I expect somebody to watch it eventually, right? So this content kind of dies. It doesn't last long over here, right? I mentioned, now we got this bullet point number 3, cheaper. So I kind of already addressed this when I talked about the younger demographic, but I'm calling these people cheaper, and it's not because they can't afford it or anything like that. It's just this is a younger demographic. So you might be getting all those views, but remember, like social media is 13 plus, right? The users are 13 plus. A lot of these people don't even have bank accounts and can't even do anything yet, right? So when you just be mindful, like what are you aiming for when you're doing this social media stuff? So I'm saying they're cheaper. I'm not calling them cheap, but a lot of this audience, they don't even have purchase ability yet. We talked about this already when we talked about evergreen. So over here, content stays. It stays for long term. It stays and it'll constantly come up. Over here, your content kind of disappears after 1 or 2 shots. And then last but not least, I want to talk about the more time spent. So we already talked about this when we mentioned the TikTok versus YouTube thing. And I asked that person, I said, how much time do you spend on Instagram watching a video? He said, 2 or 3 minutes. And I said, well, how much time do you spend on YouTube? Yeah, about an hour. Right. So people will spend more time over here. And again, remember, the more time they invest with you, the more likely they are to convert and the better your relationship is. So people will spend more time per video over here in the search-based phases than they do over here, right? So people will spend more time here. When you go to YouTube, I like to call it watch mode. When you go to YouTube, you're in watch mode. When you're over here, you're kind of in browse mode. So just wanted to talk about this really quickly because TikTok versus YouTube came up last week. We talked about it in class a little bit, but I'm addressing this and I'm bringing it up myself. And I also wanted to talk about YouTube versus mostly Instagram and TikTok. Like if you're an educator, I encourage you to use YouTube as your platform. And it's a slow grind. But eventually it starts to kick up. And the other cool thing about it is that you can get some monetization. So YouTube can start to pay you once you hit certain criteria. They start to pay you for your content. These platforms have something like that, but it's not as successful as this. The YouTube monetization and the YouTube partnership program. All right. So if you're an educator, I encourage you to post your content here, right? If you're just if you're just doing entertainment and you're going more for branding, go here, but keep these videos short and sweet. I would say you can do what you want, but I would say generally try to keep these minutes under 3. Keep these videos under 3 minutes. And when you gotta go longer than 5, if you gotta go 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes and up, come over here to YouTube. Please come over here to YouTube. And please, one last thing, please turn your phone or your camera horizontal. It's more professional. So I appreciate you watching. Just wanted to share that really quickly. YouTube versus TikTok. Which one should you be doing in your business? I'm a YouTube. They call me a Google Nazi. I love me some YouTube, and it's not just because of the brand. I love me some Google, not just because of the brand. I love these brands. I love these tools because of the effects and the effectiveness that they have. It's not about the brand, it's the effectiveness. So if you're an educator, again, I encourage you, do YouTube, grind it out, keep going. If you want to do, you can be on these platforms, but use these more for branding. Okay, so I'll see you on the inside. Bye-bye.